TeamKinetic 2.61 update. It's a minor update, but there's some exciting stuff on there, which I'm sure you'll be interested in, and you'll want to have a play around with. So if I just share my screen now. So it's 2.61. I'm Stephen Hall, and it's 3 p.m. That's the first slide done. Update is, so what we covered in this update is 2 large things, to be fair, and then 3 smaller things. The first 2, granular permissions and account assignment, they're quite large things. So the granular permissions about giving administrators different privileges in the system, rather than just a super admin and a normal admin. It's given different levels of privilege. So they're only seeing exactly what they should see. Account assignment is about it's about the ability to have opportunities and kind of share them with more than just the provider. So it's not just a single provider who's managing it. Also have the ability to kind of share communications about the opportunity with other people, which I'll show you shortly. Then we've got 2 third-party systems which we've linked through to for this update, Tickets for Good and GoVo. We'll talk a bit about them. And finally, we've got some small changes to the log all hours feature on here. Okay, so without further ado, first one, granular permissions. So if you can see that screenshot on the right hand side, don't worry, there's a bigger one coming in a second. You see that when you add an administrator onto the system, so originally when you add an admin on there, you just say, oh, it's either super admin or it's a normal admin. And if the super admin, they could see the super admin cog in the top right corner, as you know. If they're normal admin, then they can do everything else the same, but they don't see that cog. So they can't configure the system, but they can do all the day-to-day usage of the system. So that black menu you see across the top there, says volunteer management, all that stuff. That is what a normal, any admin would see that menu bar across there. Super admins would see a cog on the far right to give them access to the super admin menu. So that's how it was originally. What we've come to realize over the years, and certainly some larger customers in the recent months, is there is a requirement for further to kind of configure each admin more specifically to what they can do. Okay, so rather than just being a super admin or an admin, it's like, well, if they are an admin, but they only need to do certain aspects of the system, then we've made the ability for you to specify exactly what they can and can't do and see within the system. Okay, so it's the first kind of iteration of this. So there will be, with these permissions, there will be further updates about them. We'll add in extra functionality as we learn kind of lessons, listen to the feedback from yourself and learn the lessons really. Okay, you know, they needed to do this, or this scenario, you need this type of admin. But we've got a pretty fundamental kind of list in there to start with. Anyway. Okay, so the example on here is, you know, if an admin only needs to deal with processing references or expense claims. So imagine that you've got an admin who just deals with expense claims, maybe it's someone in your HR department, you could configure that so that's all they can do on the system. Okay. So 3 of the examples I've picked out here. So top one is the most straightforward that you're all aware of, super admin. Okay, so when you go to the privileges page, there's an option on there. You can say, oh, this admin, so it's Joe Blogs, they're a super admin. Fine, I think we're all aware of that and aware that it's going to give them access to the cog in the top right, and they can do basically absolutely everything on this system. So that's probably all you guys are probably super admins, or the majority of you anyway, which means that you can, you have full control over your system, basically do anything. Then you've got the ability now, which is a new one, or the next 2 are new ones, which you couldn't do before, which is you could have a view-only admin. So imagine an administrator who's like the manager of a department or something like that, and they want to be able to log into the system, have a look around, and maybe view the reports and, you know, view information, some volunteer and opportunity information. But they shouldn't be able to change anything. It's not their job to change things within the system. So they shouldn't be able to kind of create opportunities or change opportunities or change volunteers' details, all that kind of stuff. So you can now have a view-only administrator. Okay. And last but not least, the example given there is someone who just needs to process expense claims. So it's quite common, I know, for some of you, where the expense claims might be taken care of by your HR department. Okay. And it's just someone in there who's like, the only interaction they have with a volunteer program is just processing the expenses. But what you can do is you can set them up as an administrator where that's the only thing they can do, is process the expenses within your TeamKinetic system. if you want to access the admin privileges, you go to the super admin menu, the cog in the top right, and you go down to your admin accounts there. Okay. Then the top one there, I've set one up called view only admin, obviously the scenario we just spoke about. Okay. And if I click on the edit details, you see that all these privilege settings we've got below for that view only admin. Okay. Now the only ones I've switched on are view any volunteer, view any opportunity, and report it. So if you think of that, from a realistic perspective, you've got someone who just wants to view, okay, like you say, it's like a department manager, a manager of a department, and they're kind of overseeing the volunteer manager. But that manager there shouldn't be able to change anything, but they do want to be able to access information within the system. So that's how we'd configure this one here in this example. Okay. So that's it. So what we do is log out now and log in as that particular administrator that we just created, that view only administrator. So I'm just showing you here, I'm logging in as that view only administrator. Okay. So when they go down now to say the search volunteers page, you can see that they can see the list of the volunteers, but if they go into any volunteer, they can't actually edit any of the information. It's all grayed out. And that's the same if they go to opportunities as well. So you have to click on the search button now to bring up the search results, which is a part of this new update as well. So I've clicked on the opportunity, gone into the details of the opportunity, and it's all grayed out. So that's a view only administrator. And obviously they're allowed to access the reports, which I haven't shown in this video, but they can. So that's how it works. So you imagine all the different kind of scenarios we could set up. You could set up the kind of make sure you got the right privilege for the right kind of user. Has anyone got any questions over that? Let's stop sharing. No? Any questions in the chat? Oh yes, someone asked a question.
We've got name not available has raised a hand.
I know, I just saw that.
I'm not sure who that is.
Oh, that might be me. I'm not sure why that is. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I can hear you okay.
Yeah, it's Louise from volunteering department at YHA. I was just wondering with admins having more privileges, is there a way of kind of providers having more privileges, or a way that we can kind of make it work for providers with some of the admin permissions? Just because we're trying to look at handing over more of the opportunity administration to our individual hostels. Yep. So for example, them being able to search for any volunteer in the database and add those volunteers to their opportunity, even though they're not yet linked to that provider.
Well, you'll be glad to know, I guess, that this is the first step on the way to helping with that. So we're aware that providers have this problem for non-volunteer centres or people that are just interested in brokerage. We often have this problem where an organisation like yourself, where the providers are known to you, they're limited in what they can do. They can't access things like a role application or something like that. So they have to go through the super admin or the admins quite a lot. So this is the first stage in enabling you to take those providers and make them admins and reduce the permissions available to them, so they only get what they need. But they can still, if they need to process an expense or they need to process a role application, they can do that even as providers. So they won't be providers anymore. They'll just be lesser admins.
Okay, yeah, that's kind of exactly what we're looking for, because we obviously have a lot of providers who each have specific opportunities that are only relevant to them. In kind of the interim, until that's a thing, would there be a way we could, or would it be okay? Could we make a provider an admin, but limit them to only viewing the opportunities run at their hostel? Or is there no way of doing that?
Yeah, you can do that. If you open a support ticket about it, because it get quite involved, we don't want to catch everyone else up in this. But yeah, that's possible, and that's the whole point of this.
Okay, bro. Yeah, I'll do a support ticket. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks all. So the next one after privileges is account assignment. So what is account assignment, Steve? I'll tell you. So it's when you edit an opportunity now, you'll see this little yellow box appearing on the right-hand side. And basically, it allows you to specify other users who have an involvement with that particular opportunity. So there's two kind of main purposes I can think of, which I'm going to come on to shortly. But you might have somewhere you say, well, actually, Monday to Wednesday, this person looks after that opportunity, and then Thursday and Friday, this person looks after that opportunity. Now, the original, the way that originally that had to be set up is it had to have a shared email inbox. So they both, because there's only a provider only has one single email address. So all communications would go through to that shared inbox, and both of those people could actually access it. Fine. But not everyone wants that. Some people say, I don't want to create a shared inbox, or I can't create a shared inbox. And there's also other people say, well, it's not necessarily a provider, it's somebody else who needs to receive this email. Maybe it's an administrator. So maybe it's the admin. The administrator is taking control of the recruitment side of the opportunity, getting the volunteers on there. But then they want to hand it over to an actual person, a provider on the ground, to actually run the opportunity on the ground. Okay. And this function will allow you to do that. So now we're zoomed in a bit. You can see, so when you go into an opportunity, you go down to details, you have this box appears here on the right hand side. That's where you can change the administrator. So like you said, if you want to link an administrator through to it, that means that that administrator will also get any emails when the volunteer joins the opportunity. Okay, it won't just get sent to the provider, it'll also get sent to that administrator. The same with assigned provider user. So in case you're not aware of it, providers can have more than one user login. Okay, so I know there's a lot of information. So providers can have more than one user login. Okay, so no, when you register as a provider or you add a provider, they can go into user and they can add an additional person on there, which means two people can log into the same opportunity. Okay, that's fine, but all the communications used to only get sent to the primary provider email address, but now you can send it to the second provider's email address as well. So that's dealing with the scenario where you, like you say, you've got one person working Monday to Wednesday on the opportunity and someone else working Thursday and Friday. It takes care of that scenario. It means that they both can log in as a provider and manage the opportunity. And as long as you choose a second provider on this drop down, they're both going to receive communications about the opportunity as well. And obviously the first one, as I said, is the administrator. You would choose the administrator, and it's not just the generic system email address. You're actually choosing the specific administrator. Okay, and you'll see a list when you click on this drop down of all the administrators that you can link the opportunity to. And if you choose an administrator there, it means that when a volunteer joins the opportunity, like I said, it doesn't just go to the provider, it also goes to that administrator, meaning that administrators are aware that someone's just joined the opportunity and they can log in and deal with the recruitment side of it. And when they're happy with it, it doesn't make a difference. The provider can just step in and take over the control on the ground, and they can see exactly who's been recruited.
Hey, Rachel, you've got your hand up there.
Yeah, I just had a question. So I'm just, while you've been talking, I'm thinking about, we've got a new shop on a retail park in Wigan where there's a manager and then 3 assistant managers. So all of the volunteers that help there are assigned to that provider, which I call the shop. And then whoever needs to log in just uses one generic login. Because, you know, it's not like there's a code going out or anything like that. They just need to identify to log into that group of volunteers. So does that mean that I can assign their individual email addresses to that one provider?
Yeah, so when the next time the provider logs in, if they go to their account menu, there's an entry in there for users.
So if I impersonate them, because you know we do it a bit differently here, I take care of everything.
Yeah. Again, Rachel, if you want to open a support ticket, we can talk about this afterwards, rather than hold it up while you achieve what you're trying to do. So
that's, I think, along the same line, the right lines there.
Definitely, yeah. So you can hang around at the end. We can talk about it at the end if you like. But yeah, definitely, that's exactly what it's for.
Super.
Thanks, Rachel. Joanna?
We already use the multiple users for a provider, but just with this new function that you've been talking about here, is it just one other provider that can be assigned, or can more than one additional provider be assigned?
It's just one at the minute. So it's one other provider user. The email will still go to whatever the provider account email is as well, and it will also go to one other provider user.
Okay, thank you.
If there's enough call for it in the future, we might be able to expand that out to more providers. It's technically just a fair bit more difficult. So as a first stab, so we don't end up creating things people don't need. But if there's enough of a want for that, then we can look at adding multiple provider users, rather. It's important to understand they're provider users. They're not going to other providers.
Yeah, absolutely. Other people might have the same situation as us, where a provider is like a location basically within our organization. And then we have multiple volunteer coordinators who kind of create their own user accounts within the main login of that location.
So
but yeah, that would be beneficial to us.
You do have the box at the end, which is a sort of nominal email address that you can put in. So you could put someone in there, which that doesn't have to be an address that's attached to the system. That end box there where it says assigned email address. So that could be anything, any email address, like a mailing list, for instance, or something else. So you could put 2 providers users in at the minute, technically.
Okay. So the old opportunity comms, so the original way that it worked as of yesterday, was obviously you have the opportunity, and then volunteers either join or leave the opportunity, and it sends an email through to the provider. Okay. Now, those who really looked at the detail will know that there's the ability in the super admin settings to say, right, if this happens, you can actually send an email through to this system email address. But that's a small little caveat. But in the main, you have an opportunity, volunteer joins and leaves it, and it emails the provider. With a new setup, okay, with this new setup of the comms, it means that if volunteers join or leave the opportunity, it not just sends email to the provider, it will carry on doing that, but you can also send it to the additional email addresses, as Rolf just mentioned, or the additional provider users. You can see down here this little screenshot. It shows that's a provider who's logged in, and it shows what Rolf was talking about. If you go to account and down to users, that's where you'd be able to add additional users on there. Okay, and when you've added those additional users on there, you go to the opportunity page, you can select them and say, don't just send it to the main provider email address, also send it to these other people who are additional provider users on that same provider account. Okay. Does that make sense? Because that's quite a complex thing for you to wrap your heads around there. Any questions before we move on? No? A couple of scenarios here. Sorry, I think I'll kind of mention these. So yeah, I mentioned if you have an opportunity where the administrator is managing the recruitment side of the opportunity, but the provider is managing it on the ground. So when the volunteer joins the opportunity, the admin needs to receive the email. Okay, a new volunteer on there, I might maybe arrange a meeting with them, and I'm like the first check. The admin's the first check to make sure that they're suitable. And then once the admins approved their application, then it's up to the provider. Then it can just take over control of that particular volunteer and kind of onboard them, and give them the orientation on the actual opportunity and take care of the on the ground business. So that's one scenario where I could definitely see it being used. Second scenario is, as I mentioned before, 2 providers where they do like a job share. I see that being quite common as well. So next we've got Tickets for Good. So we've got a couple of things here. We've got GoVo and Tickets for Good. Basically, the Tickets for Good, it's the ability. So if you link it up to your TeamKinetic system, which I'll show you how to do in a minute, then it allows your volunteers to use some of their volunteer hours to actually get discounts. And there's some really good discounts and some really fantastic stuff in it. So I think it took my fancy, to be honest with you. So yeah, so if you link it up, in short, if you link it up to the Tickets for Good system, then you can have the ability of kind of basically saying thank you to your volunteers in a more real way, where they can get discounts on cinema tickets and concerts and all sorts of stuff, football games, this, that, and the other. Okay. There's loads of information on the Tickets for Good system.
Just to be clear, it's not a discount; it's a free ticket, and all you pay is a small booking fee. So the tickets are free, not discounted, and you pay a small booking fee, or the volunteer pays a small booking fee. It's not a discounted ticket; it's a free ticket.
Yeah, just apart from the booking fee. Sorry, Chris, you're right. Absolutely right. Okay. The GoVo one. So the GoVo is Royal Voluntary Service, kind of volunteer, national kind of volunteer system. So now you can create opportunities. You can link it. If you link it through to the GoVo site, when you create your opportunities, they appear, as you can see on the right hand side there. They'll appear on the GoVo site. So it's just mean that you got more eyeballs on your opportunities, basically. Okay, so to link them up, you need to go into the super admin menu, which hopefully it's going to show you in a second. Yep. And click on setup. And on the left-hand side, you want to go down to integrations. And as you can see down there, you got GoVo on the left-hand side, you got Tickets for Good on the right-hand side. The GoVo one, when you create an account, you'll be able to get give you access to what you call an API key, which you can put into that box there. That is the thing that links your TeamKinetic system through to your GoVo account. On the and there's a link there to sign up to it in case you're not sure to actually create your GoVo account. On the Tickets for Good, just follow the Get Started link. It's pretty straightforward, and that'll start you on that process there of linking your system up to Tickets for Good system.
But just for a bit more information, Tickets for Good is a sort of charity organisation. They give tickets to NHS workers and people like that, and they've opened it up to volunteers. The volunteers need to have logged some hours. It's only 1 hour. They just have to show that they participated as a volunteer. And all we have to do for your organisation is pre-authorize you with Tickets for Good and just check that your organisation fits their criteria. Most of you will. Any charitable organisation will automatically, but we just have to check that first. There probably won't be a problem with most of you, but just bear in mind that not all organisations will qualify.
Okay, thank you. And last but not least,
hang on, Steve. We just
any questions?
Yeah,
sure.
Just questions about GoVo. Oh, that's me putting my hand up. Sorry.
You got a question about it all?
Yeah, name not available. Yes, if you've already got a GoVo account, you just need to find your API key. There are instructions on the integrations page for how to find that. Pretty easy. Just go to your dashboard, and I think it's called API, the section. And you can create an API key, put it in the box, save it, and as soon as you save that API key, then you're ready to go. And the option will come up when you create an opportunity under the promotion and sharing section. And all you've got to do is say, yes, share to GoVo. We can't replicate everything that you can save with our opportunities on GoVo. Some things don't carry over, but it supports sessional or shift, as they call it, opportunities, flexible opportunities, descriptions of title, the sessions of when they're running, start and end dates, those sorts of things. All the important things. We can't do anything about the images at the minute. They pick an image for us. We can't do anything about that. Okay.
Cheers, Rolf. Thanks. Okay. And last but not least, we've got the changes to the log hours page. So in short, we've got a column. We had an extra column on here which had the maximum hours, which some users were finding confusing. So we've listened to your feedback and removed that column. We've also added the ability to filter by providers. So before, it would show all volunteers who had outstanding hours to log, and you kind of work your way down and you could use the check boxes on the left-hand side to select which ones you wanted to kind of log any outstanding hours for. Now you can pick out specific providers using the drop-down menu, which means if you've got a particular provider who's maybe dragging his heels a bit, you can step in there and say, actually, let's see what volunteers need hours login to do with that particular provider, opportunities which are being offered by that particular provider. And then you can kind of step in and do it very fast, efficient way of logging their hours and leaving them feedback. So yeah, definitely a lot of people are going to find that very useful. And I might be inclined to quickly show you that page. Some of you are going to be interested in it. So when you go through to the log all hours page now, as you can see, you've got this drop down here. This is where they can select a different provider here. And when you select that specific provider, I've only got one on here to show you. Unfortunately, I logged them all before. Steve's Football Club. When you go to that particular provider and update it, it will only show that particular hours to log. Okay. And then you can use the checkboxes here to select them. We do have the ability here, exclude sessional ops where part hours have also been logged. This is a new addition to it. So before it used to always say, okay, if this is the maximum hours, we'll just log in that maximum amount of hours, but regardless of what's been previously stated. So if someone logged in 3 hours for a 5-hour session, and then you went to log all hours, it would overwrite that with the 5 hours. But now we've put this checkbox in which says, actually, listen to what we said previously. And if we said 3 hours, I meant 3 hours. So let's just log 3 hours, which is what most of you want, I'm pretty sure. So yeah. It's interesting. Does anyone use the log all hours page? I'm curious to get feedback about that one. possible.
One of my providers does, but only one.
Okay. Anyone else? Put the hand up. Providers, because admins can use it as well. You can obviously if a provider does it, it will show you all the potential logged hours for that particular provider. But if an admin does it, it will show it for all providers. Unless you use that filter that was just showing. But it's a really
I use it as an admin because we have so many providers and a lot of them don't keep on top of logging their hours. So every like couple of weeks, I'll do like a mass hour log using that function just to fill in the gaps.
Yeah. That's how I expect it to be used. To be fair, because sometimes you do get people dragging their feet, and some people aren't that bothered about the accuracy as well. Because obviously, it'd be more accurate if you went into each opportunity individually and you did it, so you can kind of really think about, does that person turn up on that particular day? But quite often, people aren't that fussed about that level of accuracy. They'll say that's close enough, 95% right. I'll log all those outstanding hours. So yeah, if you don't use it, you do log hours, you should definitely look at that log hours function. It's going to be very useful for you. And that's it from me. Is there any questions over what we've covered there?
I just quickly wanted I think there was two of us then, wasn't there? I just wanted to double check something with the providers and the admin function now. So I think for ours that we were set up with our provider so that we would get a notification when somebody kind of applied or left an opportunity. So will that stay the same, or do we need to go in and re-update that for ourselves as admins?
Everything's the same.
Brilliant.
In that regard. So whatever was happening before will still happen. This is
right. That's brilliant. Thank you.
Because Andrew, what Andrew's talking about there, a bit of time now, here, is when you go down to options and you go to communications, there's the ability to specify down here somewhere. There it is. Send session join email to the application contact email. That's the main system email address. Okay, the main system email address being the one that's in your provider page up here. Okay, your main system email address. Okay, now, so that's what you're talking about. So the admin would always, that main system email address would always get an email every time a volunteer joined an opportunity. And that will still remain the same, but you have the ability now to specify particular admins rather than just the main system email address. You can specify specific administrators. So let me show you if I search an opportunity here. So when I go to edit an opportunity, go down to my details, I can see assigned admin here. And it gives me a list of the administrators on this. So if I turn the other option off, I could specify a specific administrator. Obviously, every admin has its own email address that they use to log in. So they can choose a specific email, a specific administrator to receive a communication when volunteers join this opportunity, rather than just a system email address that you're using, Andrea, at the moment. Does that make sense, Andrea?
Thank you. Brilliant.
Okay. No worries. Another hand up, another ping there. Joanna.
Yeah, just two questions I asked in the chat and haven't been answered. So one is regarding the kind of permissions and abilities that providers have versus admins. Is there any plan to give providers the ability to update ID checks and criminal checks instead of requiring admins to do that?
It's going to be more of a downside rather than upping the abilities of providers. It's going to be down, allowing you to restrict the privilege settings for administrators. So you'll be able to create them as admins where they can deal with their specific things, and you can be much more specific about it. They can see every volunteer, but they can create their own opportunities, things like that. So it's more of, we're going to be downsizing or allowing you to restrict privileges, i.e. downgrading admins rather than upgrading providers.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know if you missed the little chat about it before, Joanna, but that's part of the reason why we've introduced this granular permission to move towards that point where we can move away from that provider model, which it has to be restricted, but then we're gamming in bits and pieces left, right, and centre so they can do things that are more like an admin. So this is the first step of that process. And if it might already be suitable for you to move some of those people into being an admin with limited permissions instead. So you can control what they can access, like the opportunities they can access. By default, they can only access the opportunities they create, for instance, or you can assign specific opportunities to them, those sorts of things. So it might already be suitable for you. And as part of that, they'll be able to update ID checks, DBS checks, if you give them the ability to edit their volunteers.
Okay, so I'll maybe talk offline about that because
yes,
specific to our organization. And the other one is because I went to the Tickets for Good website and I'm really struggling to find out information like where the opportunities are, and all of the examples I've seen are in England. So is it a 4 nations offer, or does it currently only exist in England?
I'll have to check. The last time I asked them, they said it was nationwide, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's
that often only means England.
Yeah, that could just mean England. I know they've got stuff in Wales, but I've seen it. I'll check. They're obviously dependent on their partners and what tickets they provide. Most of those large partners they deal with are across Britain, the United Kingdom. But that's what tickets are available. They've got no control over that. But I will speak to them and get an answer for you about that.
Okay, thank you.
Cheers, Rolf. Charlotte, your hand up.
Yeah, hi. A couple of questions. How many admins can you have? Is there a limit or?
I mean, it's one of the very few things we charge for as administrators, but there is no limit. Some people have hundreds.
Okay, but so does that affect what we're paying for currently?
Yeah, there's a cost per admin. Yeah. It's always a tricky one. So people, like I mentioned before, about giving providers additional privileges, and it's also tricky. In all honesty, it's a tricky one, because if you become making them into an administrator, which means they're exactly the same support and everything else as administrator. So we have to go from the other side. We have to downgrade admins, which is what we're doing. But we're aware how it could impact some people, and we'll kind of deal with that on a one-by-one basis.
Okay, so yeah, with the change in permissions, it still means that you have to pay for more admins if you want to use the.
Currently, nothing changes at the minute, so you can use providers as you do now. And there won't be any more cost. But if we're going to give more functionality and more abilities to users, then we have to consider what that costs us as well. Ultimately.
Yeah, okay. And the other question was just about, I might have missed it, you might have mentioned it, but just with the additional assigned email address that's not an admin and a provider user, what is the use case for that? Because presumably if they're not providers or users or admins, they get a ping email, but they can't do anything on the system. So I was just unclear about them. Yeah,
it's a bit of an odd one, I guess. The main one would be if there was, say, a mailing list. So you want lots of people to know about it. But some of them might be provider users, some of them might not be. So if you say you had 10 provider accounts on a particular provider, you could set up a mailing list and mail them all in one go. That sort of idea, or if it was someone external, so say it was a finance person that they wanted to know maybe some expenses that have been created for that opportunity, that sort of thing. But yeah, it's limited. But, if you
less useful than less useful than the other two, the admin and provider drop downs. I agree, but there is some use cases.
Okay.
Use cases.
Yeah, that makes sense. Thanks.
No worries, Jake.
Yeah, so it's just following on from Charlotte's question actually, and what you just said then. So you assign the provider user email through the opportunity and edit it through there. Does it have to be a user of the provider who created the opportunity? It does, so it can't be a provider user of another provider account.
No.
Okay, understood.
Yeah. All right. Okay. So those of you who don't know that, I mean, someone asked it before. Let me just quickly clarify this. We've got a couple of minutes.
Oh, sorry if I missed it.
No, you didn't. I was going to show it, but then we kind of moved on. But we've got a bit of time here. So if you go down to searching your providers.
You aren't sharing anything, but
thank you. Sometimes I go on for about 5 minutes or something. I was going to let me share that screen. Okay, so when you're logged into the system and you search your provider, and we impersonate a provider, which means it's going to log me in as a particular provider. So if I go down to what's it called, the opportunity, Steve's, our friends of local part, that was it. So if I impersonate this user here, this provider, I'm now logged in as a provider. So admin hat off, provider hat on. Okay. And from here, they can go to accounts, down to users, and they can add additional users on here. Okay. So that's what we're talking about, additional users. And when they add those additional users on here, okay, they put in a name, email address, password. That means that extra user can log in as a provider, as this provider, and they would be able to see all the same opportunities that this provider would see. And what's the consequence of that? Well, the consequence of that in relation to what we're talking about is if you go to an opportunity, if we go to the opportunity here and I go down to details, I can see that box here where we say, okay, who do you want to share? Who do you want to share this with? Okay, so I can choose the second provider here. So, oh, Susie Blogs, that's a second provider user. It's a second person who's on there as a provider account, additional provider account. And I could select them there. And then now it won't just go to the main admin's email address. It'll also go to that provider user's email address. So it won't just go through to the main email address of this particular provider. It will also go to Susie Blog's email address. Does that make sense, people?
Yeah, it does. Thanks, Steve. So just thinking of a scenario then and how that might work for us. So let's say we had a nature reserve, and I'll use Attenborough from Nottingham because it's one that I know. So you may have the provider as Attenborough Nature Reserve, and then maybe 5 provider user accounts within that who are the different volunteer managers who run the different opportunities within Attenborough. And then within an opportunity itself, you could then edit and say which provider user the opportunity to go to.
Yeah, exactly that. Yeah,
to go to all of them. It could just go to the one that is relevant. Or
exactly that. Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
I mean, we always had this. The reason why we kind of avoided doing it before, to be fair, is because when you send it, somebody you have to keep an eye on with this particular function is if communications are going to 2 people. So say someone joins an opportunity and you've got the main provider, they're always going to get the email. Then you've got this extra provider user who's now you can send an email to. So both of those people can get an email when someone joins the opportunity. It's making sure that both of them are aware what each of us doing. So they're both not replying to that volunteer saying, "Oh, I'm glad, thank you for joining. I'll arrange a meeting with you." So both need to be aware, which is why we've avoided it in the past. But we've actually kind of got to the position now where it's more useful, I think, than the actual potential downside that I just mentioned. It'd be more useful to add this as a function, which is why we built it for you. So
yeah, okay, thanks.
No worries.
Rachel,
any other questions?
Got a hand up.
Yeah, I'm just wondering if it's not going to work because you know me as coordinator to set up all the opportunities, so they're under the main section, and then my providers sit over here and I link people to the providers, so the opportunities aren't actually against the providers. So I'm guessing I'm not going to be able to add those other users because the opportunities aren't under the providers, they're under the main.
Yeah, for you, you'd have to use that blank box where you can just put any email address in.
Yeah.
Because if the drop down where it selects the provider users will be linked to the provider of that account, of that opportunity.
Yeah.
And if that's actually you, then there won't be any valid users. But yeah, you can use that nominal box at the end.
I can only put one.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Well, Christian, I mean, couldn't you be the provider? You're the admin, you can see the opportunity anyway. So why don't you make them can you not make them? I think I've maybe misunderstood this. Why don't you make them the provider and then just allow you could see it and they could also see the opportunity. And you both be receiving emails about the opportunity.
Right. So I'm looking at one of the Robin Park opportunities. So I'm on the drop down. I've got the option of different administrators. Well, I don't want to change anything in relation to that. And then choose provider user just gives me the option choose provider user. There's nothing listed there. So would I have to do something within the opportunity to give me options in that drop down box?
Yes. So when
you can't, Rachel, because you're not your providers don't work in the normal way. So your provider is actually just you, and then you put the volunteers on. So that drop down box only shows you the provider users that are associated with the provider that the opportunity is being attached to. So if they don't have any extra provider users, there's no one to assign it to.
Right. Okay.
But it's already going to the email address of the provider, that single user that you set up the provider in the first place. But if there's no extra provider users attached to that provider, there won't be anything in that drop-down box because there's no one to send it to.
No. So can I add them? Because I add the person to the provider rather than the opportunity to the provider, because I don't want them getting involved in anything from the application process.
Yeah, all you need to do is, if you impersonate that provider, then you can add the accounts to that provider in the way that Steve mentioned earlier on.
Right. Okay.
And the reason there's nothing in that box is because there's no extra provider users for that provider.
So if you impersonate the provider, go to the top menu, go to account, and down to users, and that's how you can add those additional users in there. And then you'll see them appearing when you go to the opportunity then in the provider drop down.
So how will the system know that that opportunity is linked to that provider if I'm adding them within the provider?
Okay, Rachel, we'll take this offline afterwards.
Yeah, I think it's quite a specific one, that, isn't it? Yeah,
we'll get some screen sharing going on and sort it out for you.
No worries. How many admins can a provider have? Well, how many additional provider users can a provider have? As many as you like. There's no limitation on that. Any other questions? No problem, Katie. Haven't addressed? No. Okay. Well, if there's nothing else, then please, it's all up and running now, all those updates. So get involved and have a play around with it. And if you've got any questions, like you say, you can always raise them as a support ticket or through to the support team, they'll be happy to help out. If not, this video will probably be up on, it'll be up in the help menu probably at the end of this week. So you'll be able to rewatch this video via the help menu tutorial videos, masterclasses.